everyone. Today I wanted to recap a little bit about the oracles against the nations. You all did a really good job on your forum last week where we talked about them, but there's one interesting question that comes up when thinking about oracles against the nations. So we want to talk about that. The primary reason for this video, however, is to go over the paper project one more time. We're getting to a point in the paper writing process where people come up with some questions, and I thought maybe if I answered them before people had a chance to come up with them, we might be better off for it. So that's what we'll do in this short video today. Two things, not seemingly too related, but actually they are at this point in our class. So as far as the oracles against the nations, now we've seen that there's oracles to several different nations. One of the questions that comes up is, what is the function of these? And the other question then following that is, did the nations ever actually hear these oracles against themselves? And strangely enough, there's not agreement on that second question. So that question is what I wanted to bring up with you. Some people on the one side think that the oracles against the nation were meant to encourage the prophet's own audience, in which case they wouldn't need to go any farther. And this argument is probably pretty accurate if we're talking about Amos and the oracles against the nations in the book of Amos, because those numerical sayings that you'll find in that book kind of take you to nations that are all the way around the exterior of Israel. They kind of go all the way around one by one by one. And then at the very last minute, Israel is implicated. Okay, so about the time they're thinking, yes, all those people around us are pretty bad, God says, and now, as far as you all. However, that's very characteristic only of the book of Amos. And so we could look at this as in another sort of point of view, because in Ezekiel, the oracles are mainly pointed to judgment. Okay, there's not salvation oracles involved here. There's indictment statements and the list of national sins in each one, given in the form of a diatribe. Other people think these may have been delivered to the nations, and there are two reasons for that. First of all, in the ancient Near Eastern world, divine oracles were taken very seriously. Therefore, they might have been taken along with other political kinds of information to these different towns and cities. So that is one point that could be kind of taken in favor of the idea that they were actually delivered to the cities as well, or to the towns and countries. Foreign powers might be respectful then of oracles that were given through the prophets even of Israel. That is a possibility. The second possibility here is that the prophets themselves took God's word very seriously. God's word came to them, and if it was addressed to someone else, they might be feeling an obligation to get it that far. So that's another argument on the side of the fact that the oracles against the nations had been delivered to the nations. Actually, there's a couple of different things in other books that would point to this possibility. First of all, we have Daniel, and Daniel was familiar with the Aramaic of that period. We find in the book of Daniel. Daniel was a participant in the court. And Isaiah was also a very official prophet in some ways. So in this case, it's possible that we do have oracles that were delivered to the other nations. Now, why would that be important? Well, if they were going to change their minds, it might be important. However, we've seen that since there's judgment only in there, it doesn't appear to be given for the case that they would change their mind. So I'm going to leave this question with you. What would Tyre and Sidon have done? What would Egypt have done with these oracles that they got from Yahweh? I might expect that Egypt itself would have its ears perked up, knowing that these people were removed from Egypt in such a spectacular way sometime prior in history. But it is an interesting question. I personally have not come to a conclusion on it yet. So I wanted to just raise the possibility that maybe these were actually delivered or maybe they weren't. But it is a really interesting question because we do have so much prophecy material that is oracles against the nation in Amos, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. Okay, so now to change tacks to probably the main star of the show today, and that is, what are we going to do to put together this paper? I noticed that when I did the survey, and for those of you who have not filled out the midterm midterm report survey in there, feel free to go in there and fill it out and let me know how we're doing, what's working for you with the class and what isn't. I think it's a really useful piece of information for me to have as far as your feedback goes, because we still have some time to make mid-course corrections, as they say. So one of the things I noticed was that whereas the answers to most of the questions were fairly positive, that the one question here that was seems to be needing more addressing, aside from what you've already heard, was the idea of how does the paper go together. Okay, and despite the fact we've got quite a nice booklet put together here with all the instructions, it seems that the farther people get into it, the more questions come up. So don't feel, number one, a bit embarrassed about emailing or putting questions in the forum for other people to see as well, because this is a little bit like playing phone tag, in a sense that I'll put a lot of information down, and then as you get working on it, of course, questions will arise. So let's talk a little bit about where we've already been. If you go into the book is divided, of course, up into 8 different sections. Okay, there's one sample paper that another student had written at some point that you can look at. Now, no guarantees that was an A, B, or C paper. It's merely a paper so that you can see how this person organized their material. I think I did this one time with a sample paper and received a corrected sample paper back from a student who felt it was a good idea to correct the paper. And I said, well, really, actually, what we're looking at here is the way the student created their argument, the way they organized the paper, and how they supported the argument throughout that organization. So a sample paper, again, is meant to give you some ideas, but it's not necessarily a complete model for the paper. So modeling the paper will come from looking at these instructions themselves. So take your sample paper with a grain of salt, in other words. So the second assignment was your annotated bibliography. And at the beginning of term, people were probably going, oh my gosh, she wants us to do all this work right now. This is the point in term where you're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm glad I got this work done. You've already done quite a lot of your research, and you've already put together quite a lot of note-taking and know where to go to find your information again. So that's the purpose of the annotated bibliography. And the more you put into that, actually, the more you have to go back on now. Okay. The third portion of the book, portion number 3, is called the Paper Assignment Preparation Checklist. And you'll notice in there's a bright red warning. This is not how to organize the final paper. Okay. This was the sort of the previous part of paper organization. In other words, how do we get through each assignment? In what order do they appear and what do they consist of? And so that was meant for you to be doing all your pre-work, and you can check there to make sure you've gotten each one of those segments finished up. But organizing the paper we'll talk about a little bit more. So far you've chosen a passage and you've done a text comparison. The part you'll take from that is not the entire list of text comparison material that you've got, only the fact that your paper perhaps had some grammar or other conceptual ideas that weren't translated exactly the same in the various translations. And because of that, you wanted to look into why there might be a question. So that's particularly useful when you find a word or a phrase that is different between those. So pull from that only what is necessary when you come to the point in your paper when we talk about the verse by verse. Okay. Now, 5 is the genre and context part of the paper. This paper information will go largely at the introductory part of your paper, because you'll be talking a little bit about the genre of the book, and then where your particular passage falls in the context of the whole book. Okay, so you're going to want to see that part kind of landing at the front of the paper in the introduction section. Now, the next section of the paper then would be appropriate for the words and context assignment that you're doing this week. Your words and context assignment is probably the most paper-heavy work that you'll do for the least amount of actual material that goes in the book. It's sort of like refining something. Okay, so you're going to start with a whole lot of something and work it way down into a small amount. And the findings for the paper or the word study will go in the verse by verse. So the verse in which your word appears is the appropriate place to put what you found for the word study. Okay. Next week, we'll be doing the observational questions. And this is one part of the assignment that is meant to help you to consolidate all of your work together. So you want to get all of your assignments in one place and reread your passage, then reread your observations that you've made about the passage. And as you're going through there, see what questions percolate to the top. Okay, so these are going to be the more interesting things to take on when you write your paper. And you may find one big question, or you may find several small questions, but document several that you see, and then you can choose from those when it comes time to sort of getting to the main point of your paper. When you've done that, pull out your annotated bibliography one more time and look for resources that might help you to answer your questions. In other words, if you have a word question, you might want to go straight back to your lexical things. But if you have a culture question, for example, or when was my passage written, or to whom was it written, you'll find answers in your annotated bibliography, as well as things that would have more to do with the theological take on your text and so forth. And this is an important part of the paper writing process. This is the time when you get to sort of sit and look at all your things. So if you were making a recipe, for example, you get out all your stuff and lay it on the counter and look at it and go, okay, now I'm going to make X, Y, or Z. We do this at Christmas with something called bacon buns, and it's always quite the repeated process now. And hopefully as you're progressing with your paper writing, this will become a repeated process for you as well. So get out all your stuff, have a look at it, go through it, kind of think about it one more time, preparatory to writing that paper. Okay? And then you'll take this set of questions and your possible answers and upload it to your assignment next week. Okay, and I'll read those over and kind of check them out and see if there's something really, really good, and maybe help you weed out some that they're okay, but they're not the main issue for you. Okay, so those are a couple possibilities with those. So feel free to kind of brainstorm. This is your time to let your mind wander through everything that you've seen so far. Now, let's look at the final draft, Ezekiel paper 5 final draft. Okay, and I'm going to go through these instructions one more time here. So I use the term in here exegetical paper. We're looking at it more as a research paper, but you have been doing some good exegesis, so I haven't pulled the exegetical term out of there just yet. One of the key things here, and call it the professor's quirk, I think we all have one or two of those, is that I want it to be written in formal, persuasive prose. In other words, formal prose is letting go of the first person and using the third person as much as you can so as to appear more objective. And also, please try to avoid things like, and now we have, which are really good in conversational settings such as this one, or in giving casual sermon or talk, but they don't float real well through a formal paper. So anytime you find yourself trying to be cohortative with your reader, kind of step back and see if you can make this to be a little bit more formal than that. Oh, I see a mistake in here. So your research exegetical paper should be written in formal prose and should include a description not of a psalm. I will erase that as soon as I get off the line here, but of your section of Ezekiel, including the genre, structure, and relationship to surrounding context, as we talked about. What does this psalm actually, or portion actually look like? What's kind of the shape of it? What goes to the front, what goes to the other side, and what does it shape like itself? And then you want an explanation of every verse. This is what we would call the verse by verse sort of commentary. This is where you can look at the research you've done, and look at it all and go, what does this passage mean? Use your books, use your research to help you decide what does the passage mean. And then you'll do some reflection. And again, I will go back in and change this because I see another typo here. What does your passage of Ezekiel say within the context of your understanding of biblical theology? Now, this is where it could get quite good, because what sort of thing is happening in your passage? Are you in a place of God's revealing himself to humans? Are you doing chapters 1 through 3? Are you in the portion of God judging Israel, which is God's justice? what kind of theological theme do you see there, and how does it play out in the bigger sort of realm of biblical theology? At this point, you want to do a little revising. Okay, go through, look at your research, take a look, as we've said, kind of mull through it again. And you can even think about what have your classmates said to you in the comments in the forums and so on. Okay, then you can go back in and consult your reference works. So consult the ones in your annotated bibliography, or if you have another question that has come up, you might need the Bible dictionary. What does it mean if somebody has a iron sword? What does it mean if there's a cedar tree? Those kinds of things. In fact, for Ezekiel, you might want to consult the dictionary on biblical imagery. That's a good one. I think it's Leland Ryken, I think, is one of the editors for that. Okay, so you want to also look at biblical references cited in those sources. You might have to go sideways a little bit. And again, the Ezekiel commentaries in recommended reading, which I have not put a list together for you. So if you need some help, I can come up with a few more, or you can go ahead and check through the library listing as well. Okay, so then you want to sit down and actually write your paper. Look at your passage yet one more time, okay? By the time you're done with this, you'll probably have it memorized. Reflect on it prayerfully and carefully on the research results, and then go through and write your paper. Now, remember, you want your passage as a whole with a genre, literary structure, and relationship to show up in the introduction. Then you want to explain it in a verse-by-verse format, or section by section. If it's a bigger kind of chunk, you might break it down into verses 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and that sort of thing. And then you want to report the research results that you have via your own interpretation. Now, this is where being a master's student gets kind of fun, because you get to write what you think and why. In fact, you might want to be sort of sitting on that top level of master's thinking and go, this is my paper, I'm going to write everything here and support it with footnotes underneath. Okay, so you'll want to do some arguing with the people that you already mentioned, but a lot of times you can take and tuck your resources in the bottom as footnotes to your argument, and just mention the names of people. You know, some authors think that blah, 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 footnote 4. So be sure to think about this as your own writing. Anything that's above the line is your thinking, your argument, your conception of what's going on. And then for the final thought here, second to final thought, be meticulous and thorough about giving credit to your sources. So if your thinking has been really affected by Joe Bloggs, for example, then you'll be sure to want to source that thinking to Joe Bloggs. And you'll see this in academic work. I agree with so-and-so because, okay, and that's another way to say, this is what I'm thinking and why. Okay, be sure to get everything in those footnotes. You don't want to inadvertently plagiarize somebody. I've never, ever yet had to fail somebody for an assignment, but I really don't want to start next week. It's really not something that I would want to have to do. So be sure that you are doing your work, and this is something that you've spent the term sort of preparing. So you do want it to reflect well on your own thinking. The formal guidelines are about 3,000 words, double-spaced. Okay. Use footnotes, and notes are cumbersome because I often grade these papers online. I don't print them out. And you do want a bibliography listing every secondary source you actually used. So you can use your annotated bibliography as a start. With your formal bibliography, be sure you're following Turabian style, which would be bibliography as the title, and then every secondary source in alphabetical order without numbers. Okay, so we should see just a whole list of your sources in the back going from A to Z. Okay, and then I've got submit your paper on Moodle by 11:55 Pacific on the date specified, which would be the date that's on the assignment page. Okay, so it comes up before finals, and I do this on purpose so it's kind of out of your way before you have any formal sit-down finals. So these are things that are answers to questions that some students have had in the past. Again, if you have more questions, I'm around. I check my email lots, and so I'm always glad to kind of go in there and give you an answer to questions that you've got. And I've also got couple students who probably could be good advisors. So if you've not written a paper for me before, I can put you in touch with somebody who already has written a paper similar to this in the past, and they can probably help you out with more questions. So do let me know what else you need, and this will be our sort of short lecture this week. Look forward to another lecture next week because we've got Gog and Magog coming up. And other than that, have a really great weekend. I'll look forward to talking with you more. Bye now.